Miss Martin Muses. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses, where we muse upon what makes me laugh, makes me cry, makes me happy, makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Well, today, let's go through all of them. Let's go through all of the emotions. This is an open musings. Every now and then I do these, and maybe I'll do some more. But I just decided let's just throw it all out. So I'm going to put here on the banner about what would you like to muse. Now, remember, I have veto power for any topic. If I, for reasons I think I don't even need to talk about. Here we are. Why isn't this working? I hate my life. Oh, there it is. Boomer. Well, look who's here. It is Archer Collins. Hello, hello. It is Jacob Ironside. Hello, thank you for being here. Always good to see you. It is Steve Kenobi. He is swinging by to say hello and drop a like before sleep. Well, thank you very much. And I am very happy that you are on sounds like a halfway normal sleeping schedule. But the other man from the future apparently is not. Polite answers only, folks. Yeah. Thank you for the heads up. Well, and my general rule is if we don't talk specifically about certain individuals unless they're here, because that's not fair. Talking about people without giving them a chance to defend themselves is not cool. But in general, I'm not into the gossipy stuff. It's something that I talk about quite frequently, and I might have to do a separate live stream on it, and because I have prepared something to that effect about things like being unkind and when is that okay. This is totally not the slide I have here, so let me stop that. That's going to be for a video, but maybe we could just throw it out a little bit about being kind or unkind, specifically cruelty. I say cruelty is never okay. Sometimes people get a little pushy, a little cranky about it, rather. But I don't know they quite get what I mean by cruel. That doesn't mean you don't defend yourself. It doesn't mean you don't do other things. But cruel has to do with the end goal being to make people suffer, and quite often innocents suffer. But I digress. Let's not get too depressing about that. We're going to get cruel another time. However, let me see here. I need to bring it back to the other one. I put some stuff together about the difference between schizophrenia and paranoia, because isn't that what everyone thinks about for one of my psychology streams? And I decided I might put this into a musings, a general musings where we can muse together. But about what would you like to muse? I did finish Fallout. I'll probably be doing a more in-depth review of that later. But if that's something that you have seen so far, please go ahead and do so. Though maybe not spoilers from the TV show if you have watched it, or not major spoilers. I mean, there's always going to be some spoilers. Look who it is. Bring back the Lord, says Heisman. Well, we're trying. Maranatha, don't we say? For franchises. Bring back the Lord. Okay, maybe, am I missing something here? When I hear the Lord, I think the Lord. And then you say for franchises, maybe I'm a little bit off on that. Please clarify a little bit for me. Now, there is a cat going across the keyboard, but luckily this time she didn't try to ban someone or mute them. That crazy cats. Archer Collins says, I used to be schizophrenic, but I'm all right now. No, you aren't. Yes, I am. Oh, dear. Well, and that's something about schizophrenia versus, say, paranoia. Schizophrenia is something that's very sad, frankly, because it is a disease and to a certain degree, incurable. But just because something is incurable, that doesn't mean that it can't be lived with and can't be managed and you can't be happy. So do not despair if you are really, truly schizophrenic. However, if you are truly schizophrenic, please do not, pray, do not neglect your treatment. Just like if you are sick, minding your own business, I don't know, you stepped on a rusty nail, Are you really gonna say, "I'll be okay"? No, hopefully, you will go to the local hospital and get a tetanus shot if you do not have one already. Same idea. It Nothing to be ashamed of, but please get it treated. Hello, it's Mr. Roy, and as I always say to remind people listening on the playback, hello, please. Thank you for being here and like, share, and subscribe. But also, I am not a doctor. I am not a psychologist. And in many areas, I am not an expert, and I often say so. So if you hear anything that maybe I got wrong, or perhaps I need a little more clarification on, I've got certainly no problem, but please be polite. And if this is not your cup of tea, well, I completely understand that. There are other channels that will do this far more authoritatively. So find them and enjoy yourself. Here comes another cat, so I'm going to have to get out the clippers. I also want to make it clear for those that will be listening on the replay, this is a live stream. I think there has been some confusion. Okay, I'm back. I did warn a cat was on its way. Let me see if I can fix my sound. Yep, they sure messed with my sound. So I did. Sometimes I'll receive some comments like, wow, this isn't very polished or anything. Well, no, it is not. It is a live stream. Now, my narrative things, my videos, that's where you will find nice prose, all of that jazz. So thank you, everyone, though, that is here. Archer Collins says, to be serious, I think that schizophrenia is a condition that is not that well understood. Correct. It always seems to make people think of multiple personality disorders. Yes. And as we know from psychology, I am not citing myself. I am citing someone in the family who is a medical professional in the field, that multiple personalities isn't even a thing anymore. And sadly, that some of the stuff that was going on in the 70s, especially with the Sybil, well, maybe wasn't as quote unquote scientific as we say. Obviously, there is something going on, but I think the correct term for it nowadays is something similar to a form of dysphoria, or associated, I think it's associated dissociative disorder. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, it is very misunderstood. Now, I can understand in many cases in the past, in all cultures, when they would see someone suffering from schizophrenia, they would think of it as being a demonic possession. I'm sure it would come across like that. So nowadays, not that I'm planning for any of you listening to have the displeasure of going through an exorcism, but that is why when you will go to, say, a priest or the church or somewhere, they will tell you, you go to, they will let me rephrase that, they will tell you to go to a doctor. You have to rule out every possible psychology, every possible doctor, every possible medical explanation for what your symptoms are. I knew an exorcist, and he told me he'd never done an exorcism. His job was a lot of psychological references. But yes, it is very little misunder little under it is misunderstood. I agree with you, Archer Collin, and we need so much more research on it. I personally do not know anyone that suffers from it, but I am familiar with the phenomenon. Let me make sure I have this here. Heisman says, my grandfather dealt with schizophrenics before. Possibly if you're dealing with if he was a professional. So maybe we can go and look at some differences between schizophrenia and somebody that's got other issues. But before we do, Jacob Ironside has a question. Do you think some of it is possession? Certainly. I will never speak definitively on a case, but technically, as a Catholic, I do believe that demonic possession is possible. It's in the Bible. Jesus did it. One of the commands he gave when he commissioned the apostles, it was to relieve people of demons. So it is very possible. But if a person is manifesting certain behavior and it can be cured by natural means, so we're not talking about the spiritual realm. This is different from perhaps the normal temptations we may come across or demonic manifestations. Though that's a topic for another day. I did do a Catholic meeting on demonic possession. We just have to be very careful not to definitively speak of something because it's also a privacy matter as well. Look who's saying hello. Yes, he is and was a psychologist. Okay, good. Yes. Well, let's just throw this out here since we've gotten into this topic. I did have this prepared. Boom. Definition of paranoia. This is the same definition I used last week when I talked about paranoia. Paranoia is the unwarranted or delusional belief that one is being persecuted, harassed, or betrayed by others, occurring as part of a mental condition. So, yes, you're being unreasonable. Have you ever heard that? You're being unreasonable. That doesn't necessarily mean you're paranoid. Or you can be paranoid, maybe small p paranoid. But if it's delusional belief that you're being persecuted, harassed, or betrayed, I tell you, by others in a manner that it genuinely affects your relationships, your work situation, your quality of life, it's likely some sort of mental condition is going on and you need to get help. But that is different from schizophrenia. Oh, everyone's saying what's up? Oh, what's up with you all? Always good to see you. An intense and irrational mistrust of others. Never works dealing with someone who's paranoid. You're being irrational. Well, that's the very point of being paranoid. But what's schizophrenia? Let's look at the definition of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a serious mental condition. So this is different than something maybe I need to talk with a psychologist about, need to talk about my daddy issues or whatever it is in your life. A serious mental condition of a type involving a breakdown in the relationship between thought, emotion, and behavior. Seriously. And being incapable at all from dealing with it. Faulty perception. When we're talking schizophrenia, when we say faulty perception, we're not just meaning, oh, gee, you need to, I don't know, you need to get some perception. You need to get some perspective. You're not looking at things right. This is intense. Like you literally are not seeing what is real. Inappropriate actions and feelings. We're talking seriously inappropriate, sometimes even to the point of violence. Though, when a schizophrenic, from what I understand it, when a schizophrenic is being violent, they're not necessarily doing so out of normal violence. Does that make sense? They maybe think someone is literally attacking them. One case of schizophrenia that I look back on in the 19th century, of course, long before we knew anything. The father of Saint Therese of Lisieux, what was his first name? I don't know, her daddy, Papa, that was his name. He ended up having to be institutionalized because he continued to be convinced some people were coming to try to kidnap his daughters. But like literally to the point that one night he got a gun out and all that's like, I'm going to protect them. That's when he ended up in the funny farm. However, it's recognized as a mental illness and a sickness because he still got canonized. Obviously, he had something wrong with him. That is an example that comes up off the top of my head. Archer Collins says, doesn't that include hearing voices in your head? Correct. It does, like other people are talking to you. That's where the whole voices in your head is coming from. Maybe it's not kind. that we use things like the voices in my head are telling me to do this because there really are people that have this kind of very bad version of internal monologue. Heisman says, Miss Martin Muses, what I have to tell you, there was a mother and a daughter has schizophrenia and they share the same thing. That's fascinating. That sounds very, very interesting. I am aware of the fact that schizophrenia is genetic or can be genetic, just like a lot of mental illnesses, just like a heart condition can be genetic. And they share the same thing. When you say they share the same thing, you mean they have the same disease or they like hear the same voice in their head? Archer Collins says, I have heard it theorized that a certain medieval French peasant girl may have been schizophrenic. Ah, St. Joan of Arc. She was hearing locutions, I believe, as well as appearances by the Saint Michael the Archangel and others. It's very fascinating. Very fascinating. Was she or wasn't she? I believe when these things are being examined, even in modern times, they look at other factors. Was she functioning otherwise? Saint Joan of Arc was canonized in the 1930s when we had the beginning of psychology and definitely were studying these things. I would be very interested in seeing her cause. But if it turns out she was, that will not have any bearing on her sanctity because just because somebody is canonized, that doesn't mean that everything they said was correct. It did mean that they never sinned. It doesn't mean that they didn't do bad things. They didn't have bad reasoning. Also, we have no obligation to believe any of their so-called visions because it's private revelation. Fascinating situation. Maybe I need to look that up. Was she or wasn't she? Yeah, we're continuing with the definition of schizophrenia: withdrawal from reality and personal relationships into fantasy and delusion. I'm feeling slightly convicted by this, but I am rooted in reality. Often people accuse people, what individuals like me, for being so into fantasy. We are so into our hobbies that, oh, you're not in reality. You're like Belle with her head up in the clouds. This is something completely different. Literal reality and fantasy and delusion, things that are unbelievably untrue. Archer Collins says about that, and I believe there was at least an element of French nationalistic feelings there. Correct. Today, she is still the co-patron of France. And it is not the only person who was canonized. She was not the only person who was canonized in the 1930s for reasons. There were definite saints that the Pope of the time said, we need to be looking at this person's example right now for no reason whatsoever, as he slips into German and warning people. In 1938, the encyclical, I think, very explicitly mentioned that. I think it was 1938 or 1939, but things like the canonization of St. Thomas More and perhaps St. Joan of Arc was a part of that. Heisman says, yes, they shared the same thing. And one time they went to the coffee shop and they went crazy. And I think their coffees were poison. Oh my gosh. That is very interesting to me, but I have no expertise to analyze that or what that could mean. I have thoughts about the whole story of Joan of Arc. I'm sure you do. The good news is, as a Roman Catholic, I can say with moral certainty, it won't make a difference, right or wrong, because she is not a part of the deposit of faith. And no matter what was going on, that says nothing perhaps to her personal holiness. Schizophrenia definition continued a sense of mental fragmentation. I decided to not call this definition because this is from a longer paragraph. It's the Mayo Clinic. Schizophrenia is a serious mental disorder. People with schizophrenia require lifelong treatment. Hmm. Archer Collin is saying that perhaps what Heisman is referring to is shared delusion, and a word in French, and I always get self conscious because I do not speak French very well. Back to paranoia. In comparison, paranoia can be a symptom of other mental health issues. Schizophrenia is not only a major mental health issue, but a huge one. Paranoia also unfounded feelings of persecution. A schizophrenic delusion is part of their reality. Paranoia, something out of nothing. You're making something out of nothing. That can apply to paranoia. However, I always say if someone is truly paranoid, saying like, "Oh, you're making something out of nothing," that won't do any good. Because obviously this person really believes it, and there is something about what they're experiencing that is manifested through this paranoia. So you need to find out what the root cause of that is. It's like, well, why are you feeling like this? But someone that is paranoid, you can reason with. Back to schizophrenia. Paranoid delusions with auditory hallucinations. That's where we were talking about voices in the head. Voices in the head. Literal. Schizophrenia severely affects thoughts, emotions, and behaviors to the point that you cannot function. Disorganized thinking. Now, that's different from me, say, talking here and losing my train of thought, having some difficulty choosing the correct word as they're coming out. When you're talking extemporaneously like this on a live stream, sometimes your grammar will be off. You might stutter over a word or two. That kind of disorganized thinking, I think I just did it there, is natural and normal. Or when you're listening to someone on a stream and they do a lot of that is a reflection of the disorganized thinking, but going towards something as you are collecting your thoughts, and eventually you learn to kind of train yourself out of that. But this kind of disorganized thinking is you cannot organize your thinking. It's not normal, and it's quite sad actually. Iceman says, Miss Martin says, what did you make a video about schizophrenia? No, I did not. I made a video about paranoia. I was going to make a video about schizophrenia, but then I decided, now I'm just going to make this an open musings where people can come and ask questions or suggest some topics that are on your mind, but not a specific video. Archer says problems with getting words out, then just says extemporaneous stuff off the cuff. Well, yes, we all do. I just did it a little bit there. Like, but that's where you're thinking. It's normal, and we try to get rid of it. But yeah, if someone's talking extemporaneously, you're going to see this. You even see it with very trained people, newsreaders, people arguing on TV, pundits. They're annoying, but they are very experienced. But every now and then, yeah, that's going to happen as the people are organizing their thoughts. Oh, he does that a lot, doesn't he? President Obama does. Mhm. Yes. And I was also talking about it in context with sometimes maybe people don't know this is a live stream and they're like, "Gosh, this is just really, what are you doing? This is a terrible way to do narration." And it's, well, this isn't a polished video with a script and all that. Live streams are different than videos. Yeah, doesn't he go like, "Ah"? I think he does the "ah" stuff a lot. I have things in my head about the former President Obama, but I will give any president the benefit of the doubt with what they are doing. They are allowed to have a bad speech moment without mentioning any names of someone that might be the current president. The reason why there is concern is because it is beyond what we usually see when it comes to disorganized thought. But with schizophrenia, completely having an inability to do so. Well, that's why when people see a certain president, they're like something else is going on besides the normal stumbling over of words. Social impairment. That's a nice way of saying dude can't function. Oh, the thing. Correct. Looking back, however, my goodness gracious, weren't those the good old days when that was the only problem? What was it? Herman Schmurder the pressure. That was that was a winner. Cognitive impairments. Literally can't think. Usually when you see people with cognitive impairments, maybe like a certain president, oops, that's when you need to go to the doctor, and that's where you need to do what it takes to get better. I have opinions about a certain president as an individual, but I am also a woman of compassion. An elderly man that is going through what he does needs to be sitting on a porch with a kitty cat, preferably one that doesn't mess with the audio, and get better. Well, look who it is. First of all, thank you so much, the rookie critic. For $2, the rookie critic has said, "You've got super chats now. Congratulations." Well, thank you. I appreciate it. You've been maybe a little bit off the grid. Did happen a little bit ago, but that's okay. I have literally, though, 9 hours left. 9 hours left to get my ads. But gosh darn it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the $2. And of course, you get, sir, a very special, one of a kind rose and a thank you. I want to remind people that there is a new feature here on YouTube where you can like a super chat, and that also helps me with all the other kind of likes. So please like the Rookie Critics super chat and others. Oh, that's me who liked it. I think I'm allowed to like my own super chats, but yes, thank you for that. Congratulations, says Jacob Ironside. Teresa, you got all your watch hours. No, I need 9. 9, I tell you. I can't even begin to tell you how crazy it was to watch it go up and down because the witching hour happens where they take away all your watch hours from 366 days ago. Thank you. Hello, it's Corey Cochran. Thank you for being here. Always good to see you and everybody. Much appreciated. Rookie says, "I heard you got to 1,000, but the watch hours are always tough to keep." That is correct. Yes. Well, and they changed the rules that if you have 3,000 watch hours and 500 subs, you can get super chats. Don't even get me started on the agony of seeing the ebb and the flow. It's something. But it won't make me schizophrenic because schizophrenia is an actual condition. Yeah, everyone really pulled through on helping me get to that 1,000 for that final push, and I'm gonna clarify, when I thanked Ryan Kennel for doing so, it was because he very specifically got me over the edge, and I it was epic. I filmed the video, but I did make sure to thank everyone who has done so. So you will see that usually on my Twitter. Well done, says the rookie critic. I put a vid on, oh, to get the 9 hours. Well, thank you. Okay, a cat is going to have something happen to it, but it's, oh, fudge. Okay, give me a second. It's gonna get ugly here. Um, there we go. He didn't make any noise. No cat was hurt in that little interaction we just had. I'm still trying to push to 500. Oh, put then your link in the chat, please. Everyone follow Jacob Ironside. Let's get him to that 500. And how are you doing on your watch hours? Ryan Kennel did help. Yes, he was great because in like 3 seconds he got me over. It took three. It was quite epic. I appreciate him very very. That I was in no way not appreciating other people. I This is where I wish I had a co-pilot. it's gonna it's gonna get very. I'm gonna mute myself a second. Okay, because the evil monster did return. He knows how to annoy me. Now he is banished forever. I got 3 going now. Well, thank you. But please also make sure that it is active engagement because I want you all to watch the videos because YouTube also will see if it's not active. How do I phrase that? So sometimes I will not get those hours. Though the sentiment is definitely appreciated. And maybe watch some of the pub crawls. I think that you can see some different people that you might want to learn more about. I have had such a variety of people on pub crawl. There's Jacob Ironside's channel. Watch Jacob Ironside's Tuesday nights, the popcorn talk. Now that my life is sort of getting back to normal, but I'm going to knock on wood because I think I told you all that the second I was so comfortable, okay, we're all good. The world's a good place. Then we had something else hit. So I won't say now that everything's normal, but I will hope to maybe make the rounds a little more than I have in the past. So literal cognitive impairments. Impaired self-care. That's a nice way of saying that you can't look after yourself. Can't eat, can't wash. You need to have a caregiver. I think a professional caregiver is best, but again, I will not give any kind of advice as far as that is concerned because I am not a professional. That's why I'm always a bit worried, says Arthur Collin, if it counts as a view when I download a video to watch offline. That is true. I am not entirely certain. Mhm. But they will make a note if it is not an active kind of watch hours. And of course, I want people to watch. We will get them nice hours easy. Thank you. I might get it from that Air and Spare stream because that was enjoyed by a great many deal of people. You see, look, I just pulled what a president might do that might be normal, but at least I know where I am and who I am and where I can. If I start saying "humana pressure," then please somebody reach out. Cannot be cured from what we know, I should say. The science is never settled. There were things that people thought could never be cured that we now have the cure for. They discovered penicillin, they discovered antibiotics, they discovered insulin. We are always making discoveries. With our powers combined, you will get those watch hours. I'll tell you, we're gonna have the most epic party on the planet. I almost want to do a 24/7 stream. No, oh dear, forget I said that. 24-hour stream, 24/7 stream. I think is impossible, but it will be impossible for me to do something that epic. I've seen people do it; they're insane. Also, make sure the sound is at 11% or over, or it won't count. Oh, I did not know that. I will be there to build a bridge because, as we all know, love can build a bridge between your heart and mind. Don't you think it's time? God willing, we will find cures for these, but it cannot. It's a lifelong condition that needs to be treated. Can be genetic. I like the scientific words here. We don't know. I don't know enough about gene things to be able to authoritatively speak about what is certain and what is theory. So can be. So what to do? What to do about schizophrenia? Or if you have a loved one. I always like to give solutions. This is the easy answer. Get help. You have to. And don't listen to any BUS about it not being available. Don't let the bureaucracy mess with you. I think that it is unkind the way that they like to stonewall you. However, it is possible. It is possible to get help. It is possible to get free help. Archer Collins says, Miss Smart Muse is actually a joke on what Jacob has upcoming. Oh, a bridge over troubled waters. You do have one. I think I even liked and retweeted it, or maybe I liked it. What is it? Let me know. I was going to sir thousands of them. Is it the bridge over the River Kwai? Did I pronounce that right? I don't know. But get help. It's there. And don't be ashamed. Sometimes with schizophrenia, though, they are incapable of doing so. So if you have a loved one, please be an advocate. Don't be a French shower. Be supportive. As you always should. Nah, Zulu. Oh, Zulu. Oh, gee. I'm going to sound ignorant. Mea maxima culpa. Always be supportive. Remember, schizophrenia, it's an illness, not a character flaw. For the longest time, there was the attitude, oh, if you just tried harder, this is something with clinical depression as well. Like, no, it it doesn't mean that this person is either any better or worse than somebody else. It merely means they're sick. They need doctor's care. And that's the end of my little schizophrenic thoughts. Remember, this is an open discussion within reason. So if there is something about what you would like to muse, about what would you like to muse? I hope that is correct because my grammar police is asleep. Yeah, Heisman says, actually, one time I didn't have any sleep in 28 hours. That is insane. I came very close when a loved one had to go to the emergency room. I had to stay up Literally all night, I was being his advocate because he couldn't really speak for himself. I dropped off at about 7 in the morning after being up all night because I just couldn't take it. I was in a chair and I just fell asleep, but I woke up after about an hour. Yeah, that's crazy. Corey Cochran says, I can't rem on who it is, but okay. Oh, I can't remember who it was, but they was look at their number live and I was messed with my sound when you YouTube dropped the view. Understood. Well, I gotta remind I hate doing drywall today. Ooh. Well, drywall is no fun. Archer Collins says the grammar police are asleep. It's a true story. It's a true they, them. It's Steve Kenobi. Said it once, I've said it twice, and I'll say it 3 times again. And he's not hearing me because he's asleep. The only time I have doubted the existence of the Almighty and his providence is when I realize that that man can do what he does in his second language. Archer says, so where does that leave paranoid schizophrenia? You seem to hear that a lot. Good question. I believe there are categories of schizophrenia that I'm not qualified to speak about. My opinion is I think they're the same thing, kind of. Corey Cochran said, that sounds like my 19-hour nap plan on 20 minutes, but boy, was I wrong. Oh, dear me. Yeah. Well, in traveling overseas, talk about a nightmare. Talk about one heck of a nightmare. It's why I always travel first class unless there's a compelling reason why I cannot. When you go first class over across the pond, you can get a proper sleep. It's still not the greatest of sleeps because jet lag will interfere with you. Okay, and again, a reminder that this is an open discussion. Let me see if there are any other leftover topics. I started to put together a stream about the Rings of Power. I started watching it over Lent. Oh my dear, was it awful. These will be disorganized, but let's look at some of my notes that I put together for Rings of Power. This is from episode 1. You can also see the madness maybe of how I start to put these live streams together. The first line of Rings of Power. Nothing is evil in the beginning. Okay. I saw that voice come on. You could tell they were trying to imitate the way the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson's, began. Another reason why this fails, not only the fact that the Rings of Power does not have the rights to the story that Tolkien wrote, but they're trying to base it on the movies. The worst parts of Rings of Power are emulating the worst parts of the Peter Jackson trilogy. Even when the Peter Jackson trilogy came out, I was laughing at the overdone slow motion. Ridiculous. It just kind of got laughable. There's been memes done of it. And then the Rings of Power unironically overuses it every 5 seconds. The Rings of Diversity. Though, is it diverse? I only watched Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. That makes sense. If you're going to see an adaptation, it is a good adaptation. I think sometimes people get a little bit mistaken that because we like the Peter Jackson trilogy, that Peter Jackson cannot be criticized. Please criticize him, absolutely criticize him. There were flaws in the original the Lord of the Rings trilogy rather that Peter Jackson put together. Some of it was horrendous. The Arwen stuff in The Two Towers and The Return of the King was laughable. Peter Jackson wasn't perfect. The reason why people like it, though, well, one thing, they were incredibly well crafted movies, but he stayed true to the spirit of what Tolkien wrote and didn't crap all over the fans. When they called the fans evil, I thought that was incredibly dumb. First of all, Tolkien from Beyond the Grave in the Great Beyond is going, "What? What? I've seen evil and that ain't it." And it's Shansu. Hello. I'm not sure what you're LOLing about, but it's a lot to LOL about. One thing is learning when to let someone walk away and when to follow to make sure they stay okay. Okay, are you referring to the schizophrenia stuff? Yeah, to let someone walk away and when to follow to make sure they are stay okay. Correct. You can also look after somebody without being obligated to go above and beyond. If a person is capable of helping themselves within certain reason, then you as the sick person have the obligation to meet them as much as you can. Peter Jackson loves King Kong, correct? Yeah. And when I was talking about Archer Collin, The Rings of Diversity, because their definition of diversity, a lot of people's definition of diversity is just how somebody looks. But is it really diversity? No, it's that's superficial. It's skin deep. Archer Collins says, for some reason, Middle Earth looks like the Wheel of Time, which looks like The Witcher, which looks apparently it looks like downtown LA. Yes, you remember that? What they said in The Witcher that they wanted it to look, or is it The Wheel of Time where they said they wanted it to look like modern, like LA in 2040? Someone did a side by side of that to show the costumes, the sets. Maybe it was a Critical Drinker. And it was like, oh my gosh, it does look all the same. There's not the handcrafted touch of it. The Rings of Power appears like someone doing a fan film or a student film trying to emulate the Lord of the Rings and failing, but still keeping it generically pretty. And there is nothing wrong with doing that in fan films or if you're a student. When I say student, I'm also talking high school. College students should know better. But there is no excuse with the budget they have and the people that they could have hired to have made it so ugly. Said it once, said it twice, I'll say it again. The actors are actually not ugly, but they are made to be ugly. They are not bad actors because I've seen those actors, many of them, in other films and other TV shows. They are not that ugly. They to go to Wheel of Time, Rosamund. Oh, what they beautiful woman, beautiful woman, and look what they do to her. Shansu, Peter Jackson was not perfect, but respectful of the source material. That is correct. And when he got criticism, he would listen, and in his commentaries, he would say, "Yes, I heard this," and I was like, "Fair enough, but oops, we've already filmed it." The Pep have a breakdown. Archer Collins says the problem with that is everywhere and everyone looks the same, meaning there's actually no diversity between areas. That's a good point. Correct. Yes. When you have all that diversity, there is actually not diversity. So instead of having Hobbiton being Hoppity, or Gondor being Gondori, or the Easterlings being the Easter like, there's no difference. They even talk the same. I sincerely believe they didn't understand fantasy, they didn't understand Tolkien and why he, for example, is the author of the century, and they thought, "We'll just put the name Lord of the Rings on and people will go see it, or will tune into it." Corey Cochran says, "Got a bud who has bipolar disorder, bad, can go from 0 to 100, and him being 6.2, 290 makes most back off when they really should not. Took me years to learn when to follow." Yeah, good point. I tell people, though, don't be judgy if they do back off. I lose my ever-loving mind when you see students, high school students, who are about 6'2" and 290 pounds, fighting and throwing things, and they're like, "Why isn't the teacher doing anything?" It's like, um, I don't can't imagine why. You have one of those videos had a teacher who was probably about 5'4" and pregnant. It's like, yeah, why shouldn't she try to break up a fight between people twice her weight and twice her height? Well, maybe not twice her height. Have you seen the pics, says Archer Collin, from the upcoming Star Wars game with Mam Solo? No, I just stay away from Star Wars. Not to mention that they seem to have enabled fast travel and the Rings of Power. Yes, when what's his name? Sauron. It's like, "Ew, I'm hurt. It's okay. We'll take you to the elves." And they fast travel. Here's the problem also with the Rings of Power. Just give me a second. By the way, that for once that was not cat induced. The most reasonable, charismatic, logical person in the whole thing is Sauron. They're making me root for the devil. I know it's not a one-for-one allegory, okay? There's something wrong with your lead characters when you are compelled to side with the bad guy. Heisman says, "Yes, I never want to be in love with I never want to be loved with Star Wars." Okay. I think maybe help me out there. I'm not sure if there's a typo or what you meant to say. I know that for me, autocorrect is a nightmare. And the ships are bigger on the inside of the TARDIS. Oh my. Yeah. Star Wars ended for me with the EU, the last EU book that was published. Everything else is the equivalent of fan fiction. Something you'd see on fanfiction.net. Doesn't matter, doesn't mean a thing. But remember, nothing is evil in the beginning. Thank you, Sherlock. Hear this one out. There was a time when the world was so young, there had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light. I know what they're trying to refer to because when God created everything with music, which is awesome, the sun was not what lit things. I'm wondering if we see this kind of asinine narration because they didn't have the rights to do so to explain the way it did happen. But I'm just like, the world's so young, there had not been a sunrise, but even then there was light. Okay. Archer Collins says, "I actually didn't watch Rings of Power, but it seemed that everyone knew that guy would turn out to be Sauron despite what the producers said." I know they said, "Weren't we clever? But we gave hints." And everyone's like, "We knew before it started," because they just kept saying, this human guy, the way the meme goes, everyone looked at the only white man and said, "That's Sauron." And we were right. They were too clever by half, or they weren't even clever by half. They thought they were being clever when they were just being asinine. It was like watching Blue's Clues. But when you're watching it with a toddler, you're like, okay, if you're two, this is actually very good way. This is a very good way to cognitively develop and get curiosity with a 2-year old when they have things hiding in plain sight, and or Dora the Explorer when Dora turns, "Do you see where the backpack is? I lost it." And the backpack's just like sitting behind her. Those were the kind of hints that they gave for it being Sauron. I like this one. Okay, not entirely sure. Okay. Well, maybe the sun hadn't ever set in the first place. Well, there was no sun. But but just to say that, it's okay. And later they did talk about the light of the trees or something, but it's just such a dumb line. You can tell they're trying to sound like Tolkien and failing. It's like me saying, I'm going to write the play William Shakespeare never wrote, and I'm going to add just a thee and a thou and a hark now and then, and think that's what makes it Shakespeare. Oh, but remember, a stone only looks down. Damn right. Watch those stones. Those pesky stones that don't know how to look up because they're stones. Heisman says, "Well, what I mean is I never knew what Star Wars is. What I learned from the truth about it, I don't want to be into Star Wars. I grew up with the Lord of the Rings and fantasy stories and Batman." Okay, cool. Archer Collins, to give the show its due, it did give great right to some great memes. Yes. Galadriel, we will always be grateful for Galadriel giving us a euphemism for that time of the month. The big bad is obviously definitely not this super suspicious guy who just keeps going, "I'm not who you think I am." And Galadriel is going, "Oh, I think you're special." Archer Collins says, "I'm generally not sure what it says about that fans seem to spend a lot of time coming up with explanations for plot holes." Yeah. Well, if you have to do the job of the writers and the writers haven't done their job, that one I cannot blame on the cat. That was me. I think the cord is really sensitive and stupid new computers, though I'm happy with my new computer. Here, Frodo, take this sword, with which I killed an ice troll in 3 seconds. Yeah, she trampolined into the troll. Then they gaslight you and say, "Oh, you just don't want to see a strong woman." It's like, no, we're more than happy to see a strong woman. Actually, this particular strong woman was badass, the one we love from the original trilogy. We love her very much, this elf. See, these are my notes, by the way. This is obviously not part of the final presentation. Here's some of the dialogue that we just talked about. "Do you know why a ship floats and a stone cannot?" Maybe it's just me, but maybe a ship has wood and is buoyant and is shaped like a boat, and a stone, like, isn't? No, but the answer is because the stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible. Roses are red. And violets are blue. Did you know that? Sugar is sweet, and so are you. Oh my gosh. Um, did a ghost cat do it? Maybe. Maybe the cat is using his mind control. Because so help me, this little dearie is behind the computer. I'm genuinely not sure what it says about. Oh, where he said that? Archer says, "You just don't like strong woman, us, Arwen, Eowyn." Well, yeah. I am being convinced more and more, though, that they are using that as rage bait. Ever since I've learned about rage bait and figured out that it's actually a tactic, I can't unsee it. Ship versus stone. The difference is water displacement. Thank you. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a boatologist. Damn it, Jim. I'm a musician and I am a historian, officially, those in anthropology. Anthropologist, rather. Son of a gun. I don't know that. Monty Python quest for the Grail. Archie Collins says, but a stone thrown by a catapult can sink a ship. Damn right. I hit in too soon. Water displacement versus density. Oh, okay. Yes. And thank you for clarifying. I don't know if any of you have ever done live streams. I know many of you have. Sometimes it's very hard on the flight. You feel like you're an octopus, and you we do the best we can. So, what else do I have here? Oh, the ship feels the darkness as well, striving moment by moment to master her and pull her under. No, a ship is just a ship. Eh, oh, look, there's darkness. It's trying to pull me down. No, but the ship has a secret. For unlike the stone, her gaze is not downward, but up. Okay. A ship is ah, okay. Fixed upon the light that guides her, whispering of grander things than darkness ever knew. But sometimes the lights shine just as brightly reflected in the water as they do in the sky. See, this is Dora the Explorer. But even Dora makes more sense than this. Or the little Einsteins, can you hum this with me? No? Maybe I can help you. Fixed upon the light that guides her, whipping of grander things at dark. Oh, I can't even say that, even trying to be a little Einstein. Just screw that. All right, here we go. We got some more profound stuff here. But sometimes the lights. Oh, wait, we already said that. It's hard to say which way is up and which way is down. Kind of true. I have heard that sometimes when you're in water and like you're under a current and you're being pulled under, yes, you cannot see. But not when you're on a ship. Yeah, Archer Collins here to help us. No, a ship is made of lighter than water materials. A stone is heavier than water. Yes, thank you, Dora. Thank you. An inanimate object doesn't have eyes. And if you're just looking at the rings of power, why does she want to avenge the death of this man? She should be like, he's too dumb to live. Yeah, sometimes spaceships can't even tell which way is up. That is correct. Wait, is there more to this? Is it going to let me? Oh, Let me see. I'm gonna have to come out of this here. How do I know which lights to follow? Says Galadriel. Oh, that was like the big secret, wasn't it? Because then he whispers, whisper, whisper. And we don't know what he said until the final episode where he says, sometimes we cannot know until we have touched the darkness. Dun, dun, dun. Jacob, can you help me sing this? No, I'm a flipping rock. Nice. Eat your heart out, Thomas Aquinas. You've got some competition. ArcherCon. To be fair, I can actually see what the writer was trying to do here. Just came as part of a really bad show. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know for sure what he's trying to do, but it's so poorly executed. He didn't know how to write it. Or they didn't know how to write it. Or they just thought they were being profound because basically all they're saying is, you know what? If sometimes things can look good that aren't good, sometimes the darkness can be attractive, but just keep your eyes focused on what is good and keep that as your compass, what is good, what is the light. And every now and then, sometimes when you see darkness, that'll help inform you of what bad is so you know to stay away from it. The example I'm thinking of is they train people to find counterfeit money by letting them having them touch fake money so that they immediately see this. But they just aren't getting there. They're trying to make very basic stuff sound profound, not realizing that the reason why Tolkien was so friggin' profound because he had something to say that was profound, and he was doing so with an artistry that we cannot possibly imagine. I have used this analogy before. Beethoven. I can sit with all the notes and do the whole style of one of his great sonatas, and I won't sound like Beethoven because Beethoven had something I didn't. But if I write my own little sonata and say, this is a sonata Beethoven never wrote because I used sonata form and did it in the same key, just changed some fortes to whatever, changed some intervals here and there. That is not Beethoven. It's bad imitation Beethoven. Her brother's, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that out loud. Right? I gotta go. Had a great time learning about schizophrenia. Miss Martin, I had to keep the good live videos. Oh, well, thank you very much, Heisman, and thank you for showing up. I definitely appreciate you being here and for your contribution. So, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Have a good time. Correct. Is this the end of my notes? Are these the end of my notes? Oh, yeah. Oh, shoot. So after he walks away after that great thing, she talks about the great foe, Morgoth, destroyed the very light of our home. We resisted, and a legion of elves went to war. Oh my gosh, those of us that have read the Silmarillion know exactly what was happening here. The reason why the trees were destroyed, all of that, the reasons why the elves were like, ah, and the reasons why the Legion of Elves went to war, why they was to say we left Valinor, our home, and prepared to a distant realm. That all had to do with the Silmarils. It had to do with Feanor. It had to do with that horrible oath. Of course, they can't say so. So we've just got this really stupid thing. Out of Morgoth came, destroyed a lot of our home. We resisted, and we decided to go to war because we did. We left Valinor, our home, and journeyed to a distant realm, one filled with untold perils, and strange creatures beyond count, a place known as Middle Earth. Dun, dun, dun. I think that's the end of my notes. Oh, okay. Oh, they called him Sauron. I think that there's some dialogue between this. And then Sauron appears looking really cool. And you're almost like, am I supposed to hate this dude? He looks awesome. My brother vowed to seek him out and destroy him. No context, of course. But Sauron found him first and marked his flesh with a sibyl. See, this is where we start to get into blasphemy because we know how her brother died and the greatest sing off on the planet. And no, it wasn't just Sauron and then putting a little symbol in him that was totally made up. One whose meaning even our wisest could not discern. Well, you couldn't discern it because it didn't make no sense. Oh, then this is Feanor's hammer. Okay, so these are more of our notes. That has to do with some of the notes about the Silmarils because they do mention them, but they make up some thing about I don't know. So the notes are not exactly intelligible because I was just writing down what I felt like commenting. But I figured, well, why not? This is an open musings. We can just discuss this a bit. And I should add that this was during Lent, and I probably got 50 years off of purgatory by watching this. Archie Collins says strange creatures such as not hobbit so badly written they got complaints from the Irish government. You mean yes, it was like anti-Hibernian stereotypes. It was awful. It was the worst of like 18th century. Let's kill all the Irish. No dogs are Irish kind of stuff. And those horrible stereotypes that they would do in America in the 19th century when they all came over and you would see those stereotypical pictures of the Irish and they're savages and they're dirty and they got those big red cheeks and everything. That's exactly how these things were. I wish I'd come up with this myself, but the onering.com, not to be confused with the onering.net, the onering.com guy, he says, he calls them dirty little sociopaths. They're insane. They're insane. They're crazy. The Harfoots. I imagine if we started off in Hobbiton and they're like, oh, oops, the old gaffer tripped and his ankle's swollen. Sorry, pal, you're going to be left to die. My gosh. Crazy people. Crazy things. Sorry, I should have said diverse, honestly, not hobbits. Yeah. And I'll tell you, I don't know where they were pulling from their gene pool. For a group of 20, what do they call them? Hunters and gatherers or something way back when. Itinerant, I believe is the correct word. They had like Asian, African, white mixes of all of that. I will an awful thought came into my head and I just won't say it because there's only one way to explain why there would be that kind of genetic diversity in such a small group. Jacob Ironside said, Ulmo was king of the sea, so why was Sauron and an evil sea monster in the sea? Oh, hell yeah, he wouldn't put up with that, would he? And remember they said, was it, the sea is always right. Ugh. Shansu says, based on Tolkien's actual writing, Harfoot is a type of hobbit, not a proto-hobbit. Yeah. And some of these are notes. And oh boy, don't get me started. Well, I'm started. Too late. I'm started. A lot of what is being published nowadays from J.R.R. Tolkien are his notes. So, once Tolkien might have written down it's almost like the equivalent of what you write down after you've gone to the bathroom and you had a deep thought, and you get up and you write on the toilet paper, "Hey, what if this were like the orcs?" Oh, whatever, that sucks. But it showed up in his notebook. They go, "Well, Tolkien, he said, this about orcs, sort of, kind of. So therefore, that's what we're gonna try to do in our show." I said when I was on with High King Feanor for the orcs, you might be able to bring some of Tolkien's deeper thoughts like that into an adaptation, but you would have to not only be smarter than J.R.R. freaking Tolkien, you'd have to be Thomas Aquinas on CRAC whatever, because you'd have to be that brilliant to be able to give that kind of a nuanced exploration of the orcs, the elves, etc. And these guys are not the ones to do it. Archer Collin, The Lord of the Rings. We don't have the rights to anything we can work with. Mm. It looks like they are going to try to touch Tom Bombadil. Sit on that for a few seconds of rage. Tom Bombadil. Someone that's such an enigma that even Tolkien still is not even quite sure about it, but he's like, but he has to be here. Gosh, when you look at how Tolkien talks about how he put all this together, you trying to put wait, I was so passionate, I hit my head on the microphone. Tolkien was to try to bring Tom Bombadil to life is like saying you're going to make God incarnate. Now, God did so, and yay, that was great. It was Jesus Christ the Lord, all right? You can't really portray that on screen. It just doesn't work. And it won't work because he is an enigma, and his greatness is that he's an enigma, him and Goldberry. Olmo is always right. Yeah. Oh, don't forget. No, Olmo wouldn't be like that, but everyone over exaggerating their R's. There were some R flippings in the Lord of the Rings movie with Peter Jackson. You saw Aragorn when he would say Mordor, he would go like Mordor, but it was very subdued, and it wasn't everyone. But in this, they would go like Mordor, Thron, Numenor. It hurt hearing that. Shansu says, "No inappropriate especially not Tom Bombadil." Darn right. Archer Collin, I have to be honest here and admit that I've only read Lord of the Rings, and that was way back when I was a teenager. Hey, free country. Yeah, it's all right. Many of us, that is our experience with the Lord of the Rings. Didn't we all read it when we were teenagers? I read The Hobbit first when I was younger. Since then, I've read obviously a lot more. I've read it. I don't know how many times I've read it and all of that, but that's because I was just daggone interested. There's nothing wrong with just reading the books and liking them, and you can tell how this is off. And I have seen normies, people that maybe have only seen the Lord of the Rings movie, who when they came to talk to me and they're like, I haven't seen this Lord. I just looks dumb. I'm not going to watch it. Or they started to watch it and they're like, that was just dumb. It's just like whatever. I'm going to go do something else, watch something else. A Scottish detective, says Archer Collin, in Middle Earth. It was Mordor. In Mordor. Yes. It hurts, though, to see some obviously very strong actors struggle with the material. Some of them, though, their charisma really comes through. I think the dude who plays the dwarf and the chick, the woman dwarf, they're good actors. I think there is some charisma. If you just try to forget it's supposed to be Lord of the Rings, it's kind of a cute little, oh, look at these cute little dwarfs. Ned Stark, aka young Elrond, I think he's doing a fine job and doing the best he can with the material. And he and the dwarf have really good, funny chemistry. The guy from Downton Abbey, he just needs to be sitting around with a cocktail in his hands talking about cricket. He's a good actor. He's just miscast. All right. Wow, I've been going for a while, an hour and 20 minutes. So, oh dear, time is flying. So I need to ditch you all. But thank you for keeping me company. This has been fun. I need to do more open musings more often. And maybe I will. Maybe I will when I. Oops, what did I do? Oh, there we go. So, as always, thank you everyone coming in and those that will be watching on the replay. We had Corey Cochran, we had Archer Collin, we had Jacob Ironside, John Sue. Steve popped in to say hi. Heisman has been here. Anyone, if I missed anyone, it is not intentional. It's just the way things jump and go a little bit crazy. Anything else? No? Okay. I don't think I missed anyone, but please smash the like button. Oh, of course, the rookie critic. He gave me that very lovely thought and very nice super chat. Thank you. Always appreciate it. Oh, Damien Gorilla Gershwin. Oh my gosh. Maybe that didn't show up before, but thank you. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on breaking 1,000, says Sean Sue. Thank you. Really quickly, Archer Collin, I nicknamed one of them the Duke Elser and Don Lemon Loss. Oh, I see. I feel bad for the actor. People say, well, he took the part. Well, it's like, well, of course he took the part. I met an actor when I was talking with an actor on Once Upon a Time. He was a guest star. And he was like, my favorite role is the role people give me. It's so hard to find work in acting. And this is steady work for 5 years. I don't blame them. I blame the people that are making them look bad. What time is your stream tomorrow? The plan is, and when I say the plan is because life happens, 11:30 Central Time, which I believe is 5:30 maybe? Yes, I think it's 5:30 your time in England. Great show. Bye, all. Yes, thank you very much. I'm planning tomorrow to do House of the Plantagenet. Yes, precious. We're getting into the Plantagenet dynasty in England. The grandkids of William the Conqueror. It's going to be fun, hopefully. So please tune in. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Yes, thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain, let's try to find something a little bit lighthearted because I can't really joke about schizophrenia. Well, get help if you have schizophrenia. But be certain when you're looking at Middle Earth, only read the story that Tolkien wrote.